A warm welcome to all the participants who have joined in this webinar session. We have a 1 hour session regarding the breastfeeding session, and we are the team at Fernandez Foundation who will be running this webinar with the panel with three of our panelists in the group. Myself, Dr. Sridevi, I'm the consultant obstetrician at Unit 1 Bogulkunta branch from the Fernandez Hospital. So we'll be starting this session, and it'll be a 1 hour session with the discussion and the question and answer session. We all know that this COVID pandemic has left each one of us with different emotions and stressful situations, not only for us and even for the women, especially for the women during their pregnancy and lactation. So, though pregnancy and lactation are the most cherishable and memorable events in a woman's life during this pandemic, most of them had faced different emotions and different stressful situations in this thing. So why do we need to have the webinar, or why do we need to have a discussion on the breastfeeding? Though breastfeeding we all consider is a natural phenomena and is a right of the every baby and every woman. Is there a need to have a separate breastfeeding week? How did it start? What was the need to have a separate breastfeeding week? So even today, the World Health Organization, the WHO stats, if you look at 2 out of 3 infants are not exclusively breastfed, which is definitely a significant number. And 3 in 5 babies globally are not breastfed in the first 1 hour of life, which is considered as the golden hour, and which is the most important thing to establish the bonding between the mother and the baby. So now when I say exclusive breastfeeding, what does it mean? What does the word exclusive breastfeeding mean? So most of us know for the infant, it is only the mother's breast milk which has to be given exclusively for 6 months. So it's only breast milk, so no other added liquids or water or any other solids. That means it's exclusive breastfeed, and it is for a period of 6 months. So that's not established in most of the countries globally also. That's the reason. And so to re-establish this global breastfeeding culture and protect and provide support to every woman during their breastfeeding or the lactation time, so the World Association, the WABA, the World Alliance Breastfeeding Association, along with the WHO and UNICEF, has established a committee, and they have for the first time celebrated in 1992 the World Breastfeeding Week. So since the past 2 decades we are trying to achieve the thing which hasn't improved much. So every year, not just one day or two, it's the whole week which has been dedicated for the breast feeding, and we follow this in the first week of August from 1st to 7th August. So the aim of this breastfeeding week is to highlight the benefits of breastfeeding for the baby and the mother. So, as we all know, it's not only for the nutrition and bonding and increasing the immunity for the baby, it also helps in reducing the chances of breast cancer and ovarian cancers for the mothers, and the long term development of diabetes and few of the heart diseases, even in the mothers. So, everywhere they do have a theme for the breastfeeding week and a slogan. The slogan for the year 2020, as we all know, is the protect breastfeeding and a shared responsibility, which is a shared responsibility. So if we have, it's not only the mother alone who is responsible for the exclusive breastfeeding, the family members play a most important role, because postpartum or the lactating time is the most vulnerable period where the woman needs a lot of support, and the healthcare workers to educate, yeah, as we say, to normalize, celebrate, and educate the woman about the breastfeeding issues and the different myths which they have, and multiple information which she gets during the lactation period. And not only the family and this thing, in the society also, the government, the communities, and even the organizations, because most of us find the working women's finding it very difficult to feed, and how best we can help those mothers to achieve this exclusive breastfeeding. So even in the working corporates and in the working places, they do have the what we say, the paid maternity leave benefits, and they do establish the feeding rooms and the feeding centers, so that women can have the luxury of having an exclusive breastfeeding. So now we all share this responsibility, and let us help all the mothers to have this achieve this goal. So we are here to answer all your queries. So along with me in the team, we have the panelist, Dr. Saujanya. She is our consultant neonatologist. She heads the unit of pediatrics at the Unit 1 Bogulkunta branch, and she has a lot of the postnatal mothers come visiting her during their checkup for the neonate, and she faces most of the questions and most of the queries which the women ask during their clinical visit with the baby. And a few of the discussion points which we have today are based on those questions which she faces in her clinical sense. And next we have Dr. Lata Shashi. She's our senior consultant dietitian, nutritionist, and she heads the department of nutrition and dietetics. Along with her team, she deals with the most of the pregnant women and the lactating women in counseling them regarding various myths of diet, regarding the diet during pregnancy and lactation. And we have Dr. Lata Balasundaran. She's our physiotherapist. She's the head and in charge of the physiotherapy unit. And not only that, she is a trained lactation counselor. So I'll welcome all the panelists to start with the discussion and their clinical experience and their clinical doubts, and which most of the mothers which they have encountered during their clinics ask them and have their doubts. So we welcome all the team members. And I request all the participants to keep on posting their questions in the question and answer query. Most of the hopefully by the end of the discussion, most of the things would be covered, and but still we would like to answer all your queries, even whether it's a silliest thing or sometimes it may be a repetition, but we'd like to insist you to post the questions in the question and answer box. Yeah. So Dr. Lata, can you share us 5 tips for a good start of a breastfeeding for the mother?
Thanks, Dr. Sridevi. I think a good kickstart is what every mother needs for breastfeeding. And I think to start off with, to prepare for lactation in your antenatal period itself is a good option, because most of breastfeeding journey is majority of it is how much confidence you have in your ability to breastfeed. So that would start in antenatal period, I would say. Along with that, to initiate the first skin to skin contact with your baby, immediate skin to skin has a big boost to stimulate neonatal reflexes and to kickstart breastfeeding. Also, along with the first skin to skin feeding in the first golden hour, without losing too much time. I think at least if the mother and baby spend some time together, and in that first golden hour, the baby is able to get colostrum, the first milk that comes in. It has innumerable benefits for lifelong immunity of the baby, and so many other aspects of gut immunity and microbiome benefits, which I think is another great head start you can give your child. Also, to avoid any pre-lacteal feeds before you give that. And as much as we are tempted initially with sleepless nights and frequent feeding, it's best to avoid any supplement feeds other than when medically indicated, to be honest, like dropping of sugar levels or a severely jaundiced baby. Other than that, I think to avoid prelactal and supplementary feeds. And I think to ensure that your baby has a good attachment and latch, this would be the last point, to reach out for help if you have issues with that, and loads of support that you can give mother in any way. I think these are good points to kickstart a good breastfeeding journey for moms.
Yes, I definitely, because we see most of the mothers in our antenatal clinic asking us what are the things, can we start with any diet, or what is the preparation that we need to do in the antenatal period so that I can feed the baby. Yes, definitely the preparation should start from the antenatal period, and the woman should be motivated from the during her pregnancy than listening to other stories that I was not able to breastfeed the mother. So that shouldn't bias them. So they should be motivated from the antenatal period. That definitely I would agree. Dr. Lata Shashi, a breastfeeding mother needs to take an additional calories to meet the energy and the requirements during the lactation production. So apart from the pregnancy, already during the pregnancy period, they are into the diet plan and they are with so many diet charts and those things which have been following. What's the extra requirement and how can you suggest the mother to meet these requirements?
Thank you, Dr. Sridevi. That's usually the main query that most moms have as they step into this phase of breastfeeding. As we heard from Lata, the preparation actually starts even for nutrition right from pregnancy. In pregnancy, as you rightly said, there is an additional calorie requirement. So over and above that, you have an additional 250 calories that needs to be given to what the one takes at pregnancy. So what is this additional 250 calories? Most moms come back to me asking me, ma'am, I heard that I have to eat more. So I would like to make it clear that when we talk of additional 250 calories to what you were eating in pregnancy, it just means you would eat additional a cup of cooked rice plus one more chapati if you are a wheat eater, a glass of milk, which would definitely give addition to what you were drinking in pregnancy. So just these three together is just enough to meet that additional requirement. But the protein requirement also needs to be taken care of, but it's not more than what one was taking during pregnancy. So continue eating the way one was eating on the protein foods. What is important always is maintaining that balance of all the food groups. It's just not eating additional proteins or taking in additional supplements just to meet. It does not help the lactation performance. What would be helpful? Eat a balanced diet, eat all the food groups that can come in, and this additional requirement would be met. So always eat to appetite. There will be an increased appetite. Wait for that appetite to build in, and as your appetite builds in, increase your requirement. The non-vegetarian eaters can definitely take on an additional egg, can take on their non-veg foods, lean meat specifically, we talk of chicken and fish, and the vegetarians have to look at the legumes and the dals to come in. Vegetables, as was taken in pregnancy, continues to be the green leafy vegetables and the other vegetables, and fruits as you were taking in pregnancy. But do remember, it is the seasonal fruits and vegetables that always gives you the best vitamin and minerals than trying to trace out some other fruit and vegetable. And finally, and the most important, is your hydration. Without adequate fluids, the breast milk production does get impaired. So every breastfeeding mom, right from day one, should actually look at taking in adequate fluids. And when we talk of fluids, we are talking of the clear fluids. So it can be all the fluids that you either want to take it cold, like you take the tender coconut water, the fruit juices, or a thin buttermilk, or you want to take some warm fluids where it can be just thin, light teas, or it can be the fennel tea. So traditionally, all of us are aware that there are a lot of forms that come into using these liquids. They can be definitely used. So a balance of all these will definitely help in meeting that additional requirement that is required during this phase of lactation.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Lata. And the only thing I would like to add upon is, yes, as you said, the diet which has been followed during pregnancy has to be continued in the lactation, and the extra requirements based on their appetite has to be added on. And when we say to hydrate more during the lactation, most of the mothers, they find it like, should we use an extra liter of water, or how do we go about it? The simple technique is, whenever you're starting with the breastfeed, 10 minutes before, though you know the timing when you need to start with your breastfeed, 10-15 minutes before you start the feed, make sure you take 1 or 2 glasses of water. That's how you increase the fluid intake per day, so that you're not stressed out whether today I have completed this water bottle or not. So just make sure during every feed you increase a glass, 1 or 2 glasses of water. Dr. Saujanya, could you enlighten our mothers how to make sure that breastfeeding is adequate for their babies? Because most of the times they are worried whether the milk has been sufficient and the baby has been fed enough, though the baby is silent and the baby is not cranky or crying. The main concern is whether that was sufficient, whether she's having enough milk production.
Thank you, Dr. Sridevi. I think it's a very important question because as long as a mother is not confident that the feeding is adequate for her baby, it actually impacts her will to continue breastfeeding, because every mom wants to give the best to her baby. So we can have look for some subtle signs both in the mother as well as the baby, which would help mother to ensure that her breastfeeding is adequate. So in the mother, usually first and foremost, the breastfeeding should be comfortable and pain-free most of the time. So that is first and most important indicator. And breast feels softer and also less full after feeds, whereas before the feeding they might feel little heavier. And also sometimes she can actually see that baby is gulping or swallowing, and she can also hear the swallowing sounds or gulping sounds as the baby sucks and swallows the breast milk. Now, coming to the baby, actually you can see that the baby would feed for at least 8 to 12 times in a 24-hour period. And baby seems more settled, more content, and also sleeps comfortably in between the feeds if the feeding is adequate. And in the first 48 hours the baby may have 1 or 2 wet nappies, but after fourth day onwards at least a minimum of 5 to 6 wet diapers or the nappies also indicates that the hydration from the feeding is adequate. And the baby's urine usually essentially has to be light in yellow color, or it has to be colorless if the feeding is sufficient. The baby in general would be alert while the baby is awake, and also would readily wake up on their own when they are actually having good amount of breastfeeding. Another most important thing is when they go for the routine checkup with the pediatrician, they can see that there is a consistent weight gain happening when the baby is on breastfeeding, and that is, I think, the most objective way of assessing that the breastfeeding is adequate. And coming to the stooling pattern, in the first 4 to 5 weeks, usually if at least 3 to 4 or 5 semi-solid liquid gold color or liquid yellowish stools would be there if the feeding is sufficient. But after 1.5 months, sometimes even if the baby passes once in a week, it's fine. So I think a combination of all these signs definitely helps the mother to be confident that the breastfeeding is adequate. And if not, then immediately she should seek support with her pediatrician or the lactational counselor.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Sojanya. And as you said, most of the times we see the sound the babies make when they are sucking and this thing. So few of the mothers have a concern that sometimes the baby sucks immediately within 5 to 8 minutes, and sometimes it takes 10 to 15 minutes to complete the breast. So basically, what do you suggest, to empty the breast completely on one side and move on to the other side, or just leave the pattern to the baby how the baby is going to have the feed?
So I think these two are essentially different aspects of it. So having rapid suck sometimes and then leaving the breast in 5 to 10 minutes or sucking for 20 minutes, it usually develops and evolves with the age. So for example, if we see in the first 1 month, they might feed for 15, 20, 25 minutes. But as a baby becomes 2, 3 months old, the first frequent, though the way baby is gaining weight, mothers think that because a baby stops, leaves the breast after 5 minutes. So it essentially relates to the weight of the baby, the jaw strength, and the tensile strength in which they can suck. So as a baby grows old, naturally the duration would come down because they are able to do the same work and empty the breast in a lesser time. So they should not bother about the exact duration for which the baby feeds or sucks. Then the other aspect of it is emptying one breast and going or giving both the breast. Ideally, it is preferable to give one breast at a time. If the mother is feeding now at 4:30, from the right breast, it is preferable if she can empty that breast, and even after that the baby still feels hungry, they can switch to the left breast, because we have fore milk and hind milk in each breast. So if she feeds both the breast for 5 or 10 minutes, she might be end up giving only the fore milk, and in which case it is only rich in water and glucose, so there'll not be additional calories and baby may not be able to put on much weight. So that way switching of breast can be done between the feeds, not in the same feed.
Yeah, as just like we drinking water and not having any snack. So just having the fore milk and not having the hind milk will definitely make the baby irritable after a while and asking for the frequent feeds within a span of 1 to 2 hours. Yeah. So, Dr. Lata, how can a mother identify that the baby has been latching on properly and a good attachment has been established for the baby to the breast? Do you have any criteria, or how do the mothers think that the baby is latching on properly? Because most of the times they face this problem once they go home, because mostly they complain that once they are in the hospital, the baby has been feeding properly, and once they go home, they start with all these issues. So are there any criteria, or what would you suggest for the mothers to look upon once they go home?
Yeah, so, though we know definitely breastfeeding is instinctive for the babies, but they do need help from our end as well. So the pointers from our side is, as a mother, you can ensure that, you're holding the baby right and comfortably, because only when the baby has that support, let's say the baby's tummy is touching your tummy, the position of the baby is right. the head and shoulders and hips of the baby are in one line. When you have adequate support like that, the baby also is secured, feels comforted, and is able to utilize all the energy in suckling. Okay, also when you look at the baby's mouth, it's important for us to know a lot of times babies latch on only to the nipple. So it's good for the mother to identify, is the baby getting a bulk of mouthful of breast, let's say. And, if the baby is having a little bit more of the areolar, which is under the mother's, lower side of the breast. And even if the upper side is exposed, it's fine. That's something which you can achieve by holding the baby a little lower, not too high, where the nose of the baby is at the nipple level, rather than the misconception that the mouth should be at the nipple level. Another thing that the mother can focus on is, to hold the baby really close and to allow the baby to open the mouth wide. When you stimulate the baby's lip or, mouth, the baby tends to open up wide. When you wait for the baby to give that cue and open, rather than, force the baby to open, then you ensure that the baby opens the mouth wide. And when you pull the baby closer, the chin of the baby is close to the mother's breast. In that way, the baby can achieve a very good asymmetrical latch, which we actually want, which is a deep latch for the baby. And also, if the baby mother notices the baby while suckling, the cheeks should sort of puff out rather than dimple in. Like Dr. Saujanya mentioned, sometimes you can hear gulping of the baby. But even if you don't hear gulping of the baby, it's good to observe their jaw pattern. If the baby is dropping the jaw and having slow, deep suckles when you see the baby, that ensures, you're reassured that yes, your baby is having a good attachment and is transferring adequate milk that you are producing to itself.
Yes, Lata. All these things are very fine, but most of the mothers, they say that once the baby starts crying, they don't find any of these things, and they just want to calm down the baby by just putting the baby onto the breast. And they, in fact, forget to make sure that all these things are happening in a proper way. So, because when the baby starts crying, the immediate panic is just to put the baby to the breast. And sometimes, as you said, the mother should not go to the baby, and what we say is the baby should come to the breast. In fact, the mother should not bend, and make sure that she has a good back support and use a pillow as a support.
True.
So do you have any pictures or any visuals, or do you suggest any of these things so that it's a good thing most of the mothers see those positions, so that when the baby is cranky, in fact they have the image of that and they start doing those things? Do you suggest any of the things?
Yes.
Because we have a lot of information in the Google, but do you have anything which you can suggest our mothers?
Yes, definitely, Dr. Sridevi. Rather than listening, rather than reading also, I think global media health has wonderful videos of breastfeeding, positioning, and all the general guidelines for mothers. It's a wonderful, and they have in different languages. The resources we'll put across in the box so that our audience can have access to a lot of our resources, like nutrition, that we all as panelists shared a few resources that will be available, so that they can definitely ensure. And because the baby's crying, like you mentioned, Dr. Sridevi, and then mothers just put and they don't focus on this, it's important for us to also identify feeding cues. And crying is really the last hunger cue that the baby shows. So it's best to attach the baby to the breast or offer the breast when the baby is showing playful signs of hunger cues, or early signs or mid signs of, maybe smacking the lips and moving head side to side, trying to put finger in the mouth. These are, like movement of hands and limbs playfully. These can be early and mid hunger cues that we can actually identify, which of course the mother and baby learn along the journey of breastfeeding. But it's a good thing to know these things so that we don't get flustered when the baby is suddenly crying and you're trying to, first calm the baby, put the baby to the breast. Those are important things that will help the moms.
Yes, in fact, we practically we see that even the baby is crying too much, they even don't latch on in the initial week unless you try to pacify them. Just take the baby and then pacify and then put onto the breast.
Absolutely. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, Dr. Lata Shashi, do you think there are any dietary guidelines to be followed by a breastfeeding mom? Because most of them are concerned during the postpartum period because their appetite is increased and everyone is on the top of them to have the diet, different dietary advices. And on the same time, they have the psychological stress that they are putting on overweight with not much of activity and doing the exercise. So do you have any guidelines which we follow during the
Uh,
lactation period?
Definitely, Dr. Devi. I would always advise every mom, as I earlier said, first thing, eat to appetite. But do follow the basic guideline of eating smaller meals so that you can keep eating every 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours. So the small meal supports this frequent energy requirement that is mainly required all through for a breastfeeding mom, because there is on-demand feed that we advise for the mother at her initial phases. So always plan to eat smaller meals. Have that meal being complete in respect of not just eating a fruit and thinking that's a snack. So when you have a snack of a fruit, combine it with a handful of nuts, combine it with a milk product. So it need not be just milk, it can be any other dairy product, it can be a cup of curds, it can be just few pieces of paneer, but clubbing in or combining a fruit with a protein source makes a snack more filling, what we always call being more satiating for the next meal. The major meals always should be of what we term the low glycemic load of this diet. This can be achieved by having adequate fiber, which comes in from your whole grains, having optimum amount of vegetables, both as salads and as cooked vegetables, and as I said, a protein source. So the breakfast, lunch, dinner, if this can be taken care that you're taking in a quantity of all these, that gives it a complete meal. So the first guideline always is eat small meals. So I would put it as 3 major meals and 3 small snacks which come in between these. Hydration should go in midst, as you rightly said, to time that drink your water as per your thirst, but also drink each time you take in your baby for feed. Make sure that you're having some fluid and then start on your breastfeed. So that makes it a pattern, a discipline that you're actually drinking inadequate without getting much stressed. You can take in your fluids. The most important thing always is, as I said, seeing that there is a protein source at every meal. That makes sure that you are not frequently hungry. Most of them end up saying, ma'am, I had a snack of bread and I'm still hungry. Now, this is a myth. I took the example of bread because everyone thinks eating a lot of bread during breastfeeding lactation phase gives them more milk. I would not deny that bread should not be taken, but it cannot be only bread. Have just one snack if you insist on having your bread. Only one snack a day of being 2, maximum 4 slices of bread a day. And that should go along with a protein source. So it can either be that you have taken it with some cheese and vegetables, you have taken it with some peanut butter, and have a cup of fruits to go with it. Only then the bread will do its job. Otherwise, as you rightly said, the weight gain actually starts piling in, specifically if you have noticed after the second month of lactation. Till then, everyone is fine. The second month is when they suddenly realize, ma'am, I've started gaining weight. So one tip always for every breastfeeding mother to remember is the weight that you gained in pregnancy is to be lost during your lactation phase. You are eating additional calories, as I rightly said, you're eating additional calories, but yet you do not gain weight. So that is one tip to always remember. If you're gaining weight, you're not eating well. You're not eating for the breast milk production. Relook at the components of your food. See that are you getting in all your components, and that will help change. So cut down on all those extra high fat, high salt, high sugar foods, not anything else. All those sweetened beverages, cut them off and then continue eating all the other food groups. I think that will help them maintain their weight with getting in all the nutritional requirement for lactation.
Thank you, Lata. And as you have rightly put it, to avoid all those high calorie foods, and few of the lactating mothers have the thing of having a ghee laddu. So even, yes, that is again one more thing which is adding upon to their weight during the lactation
True.
period. Dr. Saujanya, okay, we are from that time discussing about the breastfeeding issues in the mothers with the normal pregnancy and the normal things. Can you enlighten us on any special scenarios or special circumstances where we need to have the breastfeeding?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sridevi. So there would be various situations or circumstances where unique support would be required, but because of the time constraint, I think I would restrict myself to a few of the most commonly encountered special situations in which an extra support or guidance is needed with respect to the breastfeeding. So first and most important is infections. I think most of them, they still have this misconception and myth that if the mother is having fever or any flu-like illness or any other infections, the breastfeeding has to be stopped. But I think in most of the infections, whether viral or bacterial or common flu, cold, influenza, I think she can successfully continue her breastfeeding. There is no need for her to stop breastfeeding. But there are certain infections in which I think we need to take the guidance or help of the treating doctor or the physician. So the first and foremost important thing is chicken pox. If the mother develops the lesions of chicken pox 5 days before the delivery or 3 days after the delivery, that is the point where temporarily she might have to avoid giving breast milk because the virus can be excreted in the milk. And after that, once her lesions are healed, she can again get back to the breastfeeding. If the mother is already a known case of herpes simplex infection, if she has only visible lesions or the pustules or the skin lesions on the nipple, that is when she needs to avoid giving feeding from that breast. Otherwise, still she can give the breastfeed. Even if it is a tuberculosis, if mother is having tuberculosis, if it is extra pulmonary, there is no need to think about breastfeeding. She can continue breastfeeding. Only if she is a pulmonary tuberculosis with open case, that is, she's coughing out, she is having symptoms, she has to follow proper mask hygiene, and then she can still continue the breastfeeding. Now, coming to another important infection, that is HIV. So even HIV, all the parents who are HIV positive, they are offered counseling antenatally, that is before delivery, and they're given a choice. They can choose their feeding option, whether they want to go for exclusive breastfeeding or formula feeding. Even in that situation, the health organizations, they recommend, especially for countries like ours, developing country, exclusive breastfeeding is still a viable option even in case of a HIV infection. Only thing is, provided mother should be under proper care, guidance, and she should be adherent to her antiretroviral therapy. If she's taking medications on time, I think still she can opt for exclusive breastfeeding for first 6 months and then continue up to 1 to 2 years of age for the baby. I think another most important infection, if we do not talk about right now, any discussion would be incomplete. That is the COVID pandemic. So there is so much of myths or doubts about COVID pandemic. More than myths, I think it's more panic and freak that is there. So what should we do? So till date, there is no evidence in the literature that COVID virus can be transmitted through breast milk. So this point needs to be underlined. So the babies do not get COVID from the mothers from breastfeeding. So all that we need to worry about is still they can get COVID from the mothers only from droplet. That is when they are feeding, they might cough out or they might touch the baby without hand washing. That is when actually the COVID can spread to the babies after delivery. So if the mother is asymptomatic, she can give direct breastfeeding. If she has symptoms and she is isolated, she can express her milk and that can be fed with a cup or spoon. Only if the mother is very sick on a ventilator or BiPAP or in ICU, that is when we need to discuss about the alternate feeding options. Otherwise, still breastfeeding is the best even in a COVID positive mother. Then next, coming to preterm babies. So normally all babies are born after completion of 9 months. So if any baby is born before 37 weeks, they are preterm. So the problem with the preterm babies, because they are immature, they are not trained to be able to effectively suck at the breast and empty the breast. So that is where the challenge lies. But any baby who's above 2 kilograms or 34 weeks can again be started on direct breastfeeding from day one onwards. Only if they are below 2 kilograms or less than 34 weeks, they should be given expressed breast milk. The mother can express the milk and it can be fed through a palade or cup or a spoon. So mothers need to get trained, and so this guidance they would get from their neonatologist or the pediatrician. So another special situation would be if the babies have cleft lip or palate. So cleft lip is a furrow that we can see the babies might be born with in the lip, any part of the lip, or sometimes a groove might be seen inside the palate. So definitely this is one situation which is of concern, because there are certain struggles that mother might face when the baby has either cleft lip or palate. So the most important is they would not be able to maintain a good seal as well as vacuum. So the pressure that is required to suck, they cannot generate. There is always a risk that the milk may come out. They might take the milk into the mouth and it might regurgitate from the nose because of the communication in the palate, that is a cleft palate. Then second thing is, because they are not able to effectively suck, they might get easily tired and frustrated. And most importantly, while doing this process, they might actually end up taking a lot of air into the tummy. So there'll be issues with the, burping issues or the abdominal distension, discomfort, gassiness, and all that. So first and foremost, if the baby has cleft lip or palate, they need to take an expert opinion from the lactational consultant before they leave the hospital. That is the first and foremost thing. Second thing is, always they should choose to feed the baby in an upright position, like sitting, or the baby being in upright position. And most importantly, be patient, because it is a tough situation for both the mother and the baby. So you need to be calm and patient, and you need to burp the baby more often, because they inherently end up swallowing a lot of air. If the baby has cleft lip, what they can do is they can try to seal the cleft or the groove with their own breast tissue, or sometimes putting a finger or thumb there. But again, this needs expert guidance. They need to be trained under the lactational counselor or the pediatrician that they are visiting. And if they have cleft lip and palate, then that is a situation where baby might have to use special feeder bottles which are available, or sometimes they have to give more of expressed milk, because depending only on direct feeding may not be good enough for the baby, and they might have to use different positions, which again would be explained under expert guidance. So I think these are the most common situations or scenarios in which mothers would need extra help and advice from the experts.
Yeah, definitely you have covered most of the things. And just to add upon, as you said, the commonly the myth is most of the times we see the postnatal mothers coming with breast engorgement. So they say that they have been feeding the baby till that time, and suddenly because they develop temperature and they stopped feeding the baby and they develop breast abscess. So even if you have the breast abscess, after the breast abscess drainage, even through the same breast, they can start feeding the baby. And if they're really worried about it, they can do the expressed breastfeeding. And coming upon to the COVID thing, what you have said, yeah, definitely they need to wash their hands before the feed. And immediately, if the water is not available, I think now everyone is carrying with the sanitizer. So they just need to sanitize their hands and wear a mask. If they are a suspect or they have any symptoms and they are worried about the feed, they definitely need to wear a mask and they wash the hands. That's one thing. And the other thing, most of the mothers started asking nowadays is, can we take the COVID vaccine? And once we take the vaccine, if we have a fever, again, can we feed the baby? Yes, definitely. All of the mothers who are taking the vaccine or who are planning to take the vaccine, definitely they can feed the baby, and they need not stop the feed for the sake of vaccination for 1 or 2 days. Dr. Lata, what are the common problems which most of the mothers encounter and come to you, and how do you tackle with them?
Dr. Sridevi, a lot of common problems, if we have to say, but I think most of those common problems just need reassurance from, the mother wanting to hear that you're doing good, this is fine, your baby is fine, a lot of anxiety, doubts on those ends. But if you follow the pee and poop output and the weight gain, guidelines that Dr. Surgeon talked about, I think that is enough to reassure. But yes, apart from all of that, soreness and cracked nipples is something that a lot of mothers come in with difficulty because of pain. Most commonly, it is experienced because of improper latch, and that's why in the first good head starts, one of the important thing is to assure that the baby is having a good attachment and latch. That is the source of the problem. if it is from the mother's end. And also, how can you deal with this? Connect that and then just apply, a little bit after every feed, the mother's own milk, if they can apply on their nipple and breast area and leave it to air dry. That should heal that pretty fast. The second most common, I think, is engorgement. Initially, because the baby's size, when mother comes in, mother feels the breast is hard, painful, it's warm to touch, is unable to feed from that side, because when it's severely engorged, babies don't feed also very easily from that side. And they wonder what is wrong. And they, like you said, if they're not aware, they may avoid feeding from that side, and that may cause a further abscess or infection. And the best thing initially, it's important for moms to understand that the size of the baby's stomach is very small initially. It's just, the size of a marble, then a plum, then an egg, in the span of 1 day to 3 days to 10 days and 1 month. So it's important that initially the demand and supply balance is not adequately met, because the supply from the mother's end is more and the demand from the baby's end may be less. So to balance this, it may take a few days. Ideally, in the first few weeks, mothers may come in with this. The only solution is feed the baby often, empty the breast and express milk if baby is not feeding. But yes, it can be painful to feed or express on a, engorged breast. So taking a bowl and dipping warm water and towel and putting it on the breast like a warm compress every 10 to 15 minutes before feeds, and then sort of expressing, maybe hand expressing a little milk out, and offering the breast to the baby often. If the baby is willing to have, great. If the baby is not willing to, then just express it and donate that milk. That would be a good thing to do. But emptying, that's the only solution to tackle engorgement. Another common thing is clogged ducts. Sometimes when the babies don't latch adequately, or maybe the bra is too tight, or there's some pressure on the, one part of the breast, the ducts which are underlying the areola, they get sort of blocked. And while feeding, it can be painful and little burning and that kind of pain for the mother. In that situation also, I think warm compress would help. If you can add a little, half a teaspoon salt to that bowl of warm water, the isotonic solution, that will heal it faster. And while feeding the baby, sort of doing a gentle massage towards the nipple, that also will help. And even an engorgement, gentle kneading, massage with the, knuckles or fingers, that also will help. These are primarily the most common one. Difficulty latching, a lot of mothers come in with flat nipples or inverted nipples. Again, it is not the nipple that the baby feeds from. It is really the mouthful of breast that the baby gets. But definitely they can pose with some challenges initially. And that's why just be patient, let the baby learn, you learn, and take help if you need to. Syringing technique, there is a technique where you cut one half of the syringe and put the other soft part and suction little bit of pressure out. Mother does it. With that, flat nipples can come out and it will be easy for the baby to latch before every feed. Pumping also can actually help that breast come out, or the baby just naturally suckling can help that nipple come out a little, and these are solutions. Inverted nipples sometimes can pose challenges, and maybe you can, in those times, after trying everything else and support, if it's unsuccessful and you still want to breastfeed, try a nipple shield. But remember, a nipple shield, prolonged use can cause reduced early weaning, reduced flow to the, supply in the long run. And that's why weaning the baby off the nipple shield also is very important. Taking help from the counselor, I think, would be ideal in these nipple issue aspects. These are some of the common ones, Dr. Sridevi, and more
Yes.
maybe we can answer in the chat box if we have Q&A.
Yes. As you said, when the breast engorgement, we are in fact dealing with a flat nipple where the baby
Yes.
really finds it difficult to suck. And the other thing is, most of the mothers for the cracked nipple, they try to apply the nip care, which is a medical ointment, which they easily find it and they find it little soothing. But I think, as you said, first they should try to apply the hind milk, because that's easy. And when the baby is crying every time, they need not go and wash the breast every time. So they just need to wipe it off and then do that.
And that if there is cracked nipples, that skin is also so delicate. Every time you wash it off and wipe, it hurts more. So that's also important.
Yes, that becomes more sensitive, and it becomes really a vicious circle for them to start the feed.
Sure.
Yeah, Dr. Lata Shashi, the main thing is, are there any foods that needs to be avoided? As till now you have discussed all the foods which need to be taken, any foods that need to be avoided, especially, or are any special foods that the woman has not been taking during pregnancy, which have to be added during the lactation period? And are there any weight loss diets which you recommend during lactation? Because few of them say that they have started with the weight reduction diet and suddenly the pregnancy and lactation, so they really want to have some diet reduction foods.
Um, Actually, Dr. Devi, there are no special foods that need to start being taken in during lactation phase, during the breastfeeding phase. Um, One simple thing always, of course, to remember is if you are allergic to any foods, and this allergy, I mean not the intolerance you develop during pregnancy, you have already been allergic to any food, then this is not the time to rework on it. I would take the example of, citrus fruits. Most mothers tell me, ma'am, citrus fruits, will I not catch a cold? Now, that's a myth. If you personally have been allergic to citrus fruit before your pregnancy, yes, this is not the time to take in citrus fruit, but otherwise, taking a vitamin C source as citrus fruit is really helpful. So, the only thing that I would ask every mother during their breastfeeding phase to avoid is whatever foods they are allergic to. Same concern with whole beans or legumes. I mean, we always recommend every mother to take this, but most of them say, oh, it's highly flatulent, ma'am. So it is. So again, flatulence to the beans and legumes is an individualistic reaction. So you need to decide. Everyone will not be having excess flatulence to moong or to chana or be it lobia. So if you are already having a disturbed tummy, you know that you don't agree with it. Yes, you can avoid it and think of an alternate bean. So, in this category, avoiding foods are foods which you might be flatulent to. So, the possible foods are, it can be the Brassicaceae family like cabbage, cauliflower, lettuce, even onions for that matter. Yes, some of them are flatulent to these foods. So, if you are flatulent, avoid it. So, do not eat something which makes you uncomfortable in your tummy, and then that definitely will impact your breastfeeding phase. But otherwise, there is no foods that you need to avoid. But when we look at the weight issue, as we earlier said, I would definitely ask to limit on all the high fat, high salt, and high sugar foods, what we now commonly call the HFSS foods. High fat, high salt, and high sugar foods. This is mainly because you don't want to get in those empty calories and miss out getting your calories from your foods which needs to be supplying you those essential nutrients. We're not talking of no fat here. You need to get your essential fats. So the polyunsaturated fatty acids which come from your vegetable oils, you have to use them. There is nothing that we're asking you to not use fats. Use your oils in your cooking. Use a amount of butter, ghee, or you want to use the type of olive oil. People ask me, but I would still recommend going for the groundnut oil, rice bran oil, which will actually give in you that essential fats. So again, go back to your traditional way of eating. Eat what you have already been used to. Use that proper blend and then eat as per your appetite. What you really need to avoid when we are looking at, especially if you notice a weight gain, is those refined processed foods, processed packaged foods which are actually having excess salt, which are actually having excess fats, which are used as preservatives, and that becomes a concern. Earlier, what you mentioned about the ghee laddus or the dry fruit laddus, we have the gond laddus in some communities. We are not
Yes.
saying no to it. What each mother has to look at is how much of it and in what quantity. So, if a mother has been in her normal BMI when she started her pregnancy, gained adequate weight of 10 to 12 kgs, she definitely would want to take in because she would have a good appetite. So, she should. How you take it is important. You can take your gond, you can take your dry fruits, but do you really want to make it in that excess ghee? Again, I leave it. So I would go by the assessment that I would do of the intake that mother has on the other foods. So if she's not taking ghee anywhere else, excess fat not coming, that laddu is the way she's taking it, it's fine. So it's always judging by what you are eating. But the concept that I have to eat so many kgs of ghee is a wrong concept in lactation. Do understand you need your total calories, you need your fats coming in, not more than 25 to 30% of your calories from fat. So don't overdo it and don't overdo the saturated fats. Eat it in proportion to what needs to be taken. So for weight loss, no specific diets. There is no evidence that you have to start taking any of these so-called fat diets where you have to do, should I do a high protein diet? Should I do the so-called keto diet? The answer is no. During lactation, it's advised to eat a balanced, wholesome diet. If your calorie requirement is increasing, just cut down on the portions that you're eating, cut down on these empty calorie foods and not on the other foods. Be within your calories, start exercising. You have, after your physiotherapist and your team will always let you know what exercises to do on. Start doing your exercises, start with walking definitely, and eat as per your appetite. So I would definitely not recommend any of these single nutrient diets to help you lose weight. Breastfeeding itself is a great way to lose weight, lose all that extra fat. So do concentrate on exclusively breastfeeding for 6 months. Eat well and breastfeed, and you actually would burn that excess fat. Then relook at after 6 months. If you're still not, then we would look at any other ways of further cutting down. But during the first 6 months of lactation, it is advised not to go for any of the what we call the so-called fat diets for losing weight. Eat a balanced diet, eat low calories from the empty calorie foods.
And Dr. Lata, I would like to add upon, what about the scientific evidence or anything do you have regarding the use of garlic? I don't think all the communities, everyone is very much in favor of garlic, and
True.
even in whatever the socioeconomic status or the educated. And is there any scientific evidence, or it's just like that, that the use of garlic? And few of the times we see the postnatal mothers coming with constipation very badly without having any green leafy vegetables, and sometimes they are just put on this garlic powder, the spicy garlic powder, for 1 week, for 10 days. And is the garlic really going to help for the milk production, or do you have any evidence?
Actually, Dr. Sridevi, there is no conclusive evidence on the use of. So we don't have even a recent Cochrane evidence. We do not have a conclusive evidence that garlic helps. But having said that, we do have certain papers which definitely have proven, certain research which has proven that garlic, the smell of garlic is what helps the baby suckle better. Now that's the only notion. So if the baby is not suckling well, the smell of garlic that comes to the breast milk makes the baby suckle better and hence more breast milk. But as you rightly said, everything is a matter of what quantity.
Yes.
Everyone gets so, I mean, is it just panic, or is it just they're getting so frantic about it? So the minute they hear that garlic is good, we have women who go to eat so much of it. As you mindfully said, when it's powder, you really don't have a control on the amount of garlic that is taken in, which definitely will have concerns, starting with acidity. You're going to actually trigger so much of your GI tract that which is not required. So 10 to 12 pods of garlic to the maximum is what can be taken. Now that need not be taken as, gulping it down without liking it. It goes into our normal preparations, and that's more than enough. So cook it well, eat it in the normal preparations in any form. But also do take care, some of them are flatulent to garlic. So if taking garlic, some mothers might end up having a gassy tummy. So again, I repeat, please use foods which are already used to. Do not start something now during lactation phase just because someone else said it's good. It might not be good for your tummy, your GI tract. So please use only foods which you have already used to, and in that respect you can use garlic. But we don't have any conclusive evidence. It might help for some, it might not help for the others.
Basically, we need to listen to your body and then go ahead.
Exactly,
And the
doctor.
same thing with the pulses also. As you said, few of the mothers have the myth that they shouldn't be taking dal.
Any pulse, yeah.
Pulses not only for the flatulence and even for the mode of delivery. Few of them would have been ended up in a cesarean section, and
C-section.
they feel that the wound healing would not be better, and they feel that there may be a pus discharge which should be coming it. Again, I would say that it's a protein food, and we advise all the mothers to take all the protein foods, whatever Dr. Lata Shashi has suggested. And Dr. Saujanya, we keep on hearing from the patients that the baby is refusing to suck, though there is a good amount of milk production, and they feel that there is a leak from both the breasts. The baby doesn't suck, though there is no engorgement. Does it really happen with the babies, or what is it actually the baby wants at that time?
Yes, Dr. Sridevi, actually breast refusal, what we call as nursing strike, actually is a reality. It does happen. So we cannot just turn down a mother when she's actually repeatedly complaining that there's something wrong, my baby's not, sucking at my breast. We need to take it very seriously. And it is very distressing for the mother, because what happens is it pulls down the confidence of the mother. And eventually, if the baby doesn't suck, it is supply demand. So eventually the milk will come down, and then this vicious cycle goes on. So addressing why this is happening and helping her at the right time, I think it's very important. But it is so unique that sometimes the babies may refuse to suck few feeds and may take few feeds well, or sometimes they may refuse all the feeds despite how hungry they are. So this is subject to variability, and it depends on the stage of development that they are in, or what is the health status of the baby at that given point of time. So, what are the usual causes of this refusal? I think you can see causes from the baby end and from the mother end. So, if you look at the baby end, I think the most important, obviously, would be the attachment problems, which Dr. Lata has already discussed about. So, that definitely needs a correction of the latch or position, and it would correct on its own. Other than that, sometimes if the baby are given some bottle feeds, like people believe that only once we gave a bottle, so what harm does it cause? But sometimes some babies are so sensitive that a single bottle feed, and they are so used to it and they find it so comfortable, they get irritated when they have to actually suck from the breast, because it is a lot more work. And this nipple confusion also irritates and frustrates the baby a lot. And sometimes if the baby had taken some vaccination in the last 24 to 48 hours, also they are more cranky, especially that happens with the 6, 10, 14 weeks vaccination. So they might actually refuse to suck at that point of time. And some common illnesses in the baby, like a nose block, cold, or they might have a sore throat, or sometimes they might have oral thrush or earache. In that situations also, they actually refuse to suck. And sometimes as the baby grows old, like more than 3, 4, or 5 months old, they have a lot of distractions from the environment. So they are trying to evolve, develop, observe the environment. So in such situations also, they might suck for a few minutes and then start refusing, and then they are distracted a lot. So that is another thing. And once they start developing teething also, they might tend to refuse the breast. And if at all there is anybody who's using pacifier a lot, that also results in this refusal to breastfeed. And surprisingly, another interesting fact is the weather. Like if it is too cold, too hot, too humid, anything that is changed suddenly drastically, the babies find actually tough to actually continue breastfeeding, and they might get irritated. When comes to the mother maternal related issues or reasons, usually if there is too much flow, sometimes mothers milk produce so much of milk, the flow is very fast. So in such situations also, baby find it difficult to get a hold and control the flow, that might actually choke them or irritate them. So that also might be a reason. So you need to check, and if that is a reason, you can just express out the initial part of the milk which is coming at a very fast flow. And other thing would be if the mother is having some hormonal changes, like she's currently pregnant again with another baby, or she's using oral contraceptives, or if she started her menstruation or just before her menstruation. So it has also found that during that phases also, the babies might not actually suck at the breast. Another interesting thing is any particular different smell from the baby, because babies' noses are very strong. Just like Dr. Lata Shashi was talking about the garlic, which makes them actually, suck better. strangely they are used to one kind of smell from the mother, and suddenly that has changed. Like they start using some new deodorant, new perfume, or some new other thing, or maybe excessive perspiration or some other different odor. They found that even in that situation, suddenly, even though they are hungry, they are a little bit hesitant and they try to refuse to suck at the breast. So what to do if that situation happens? I think there are some small general tips that mothers can try. Like first and foremost, of course, you need to be patient and calm, because this is a really panicky situation. The baby is hungry and not ready to suck, no matter what. So that is definitely something we need to deal with a lot more patience. Sometimes they found that when they walk with the baby and then try to feed the baby, it actually helped. So you can try feeding the baby while you're walking, and sometimes after giving a warm bath to the baby and then try to make the baby suck onto the breast, because after a warm bath they are a little more soothed and relaxed, they try to take it better. Sometimes feeding in a rocking chair helps, and if you're used to certain position, try to change that position. So you have to change 2 or 3 positions and find if in which position the baby is comfortable. Sometimes you have to express your milk and try to put it into the mouth so that you stimulate the baby to suck at the breast, and finally maybe singing lullabies or trying to calm. But these are just general tips. If nothing is working out, I think again you need to seek an expert opinion.
Probably all the grandmothers' tricks will work out well in that situation because they're more experienced, and definitely most of the times they work out well. As you said, putting few drops, lullabies, and all those things will definitely work out, and they are more help. They are more supportive to the mothers, and definitely those who are having those support are really lucky to have them. And Dr. Lata, as Dr. Lata Shashi was mentioning regarding the exercise, so few of the mothers have few of the myths during the breastfeeding that if they do excessive exercise, there is a reduction in the milk production. And the other thing is regarding the size of the breast. When the size of the breast is small and in a thin milk mother, will that affect the breastfeeding? What do you say for that?
Yeah, there are a lot of common myths that are present about supply, the breast milk supply that the mother has, because we sometimes constantly are doubting our body whether we are able to produce or not. One of the things you mentioned, Dr. Sridevi, is exercise. Mothers do note and they say, so since we deal with postnatal moms with weight loss and other fitness aspects, they say that baby suddenly is not drinking as efficiently as before. It could be just a change, like Dr. Saujanya mentioned. Maybe it's just the smell, excessive perspiration, and things like that. But there's no real evidence to say that, after exercise, breast milk reduces or anything. All you need to ensure you're hydrating well, because, when you exercise, you tend to lose a lot of fluid. So ensure you hydrate well, eat sufficiently, and if your calorie and intake is balanced according to a lactation mother should have, I don't think there should be an issue. Maybe shower before you offer the breast to the baby after you exercise. That's something they can do, but it does not really reduce the supply. Small breast, big breast also is a lot of a thing to do with confidence. I feel really there's no scientific basis to it saying that small breasts can't breastfeed or bigger breasts do. It's not about the fat, it's about the hormones which actually produce the milk, and it's about the demand and supply. So irrespective of the size of the breast, of course, you have the glands which are present, and when the baby empties the breast or has emptied the breast relatively, a prolactin hormone is, signals go to the brain saying make more milk. And once the milk is made and the baby is suckling, oxytocin is actually let down, releasing that milk to the baby. So it's purely these two hormones, which is actually physiological in breastfeeding. Size of the breast really doesn't matter. A lot of times also, Dr. Sridevi, mothers do say that my breasts don't feel as full as they used to feel. Maybe I don't have enough milk, but that again goes to the efficacy of the baby suckling, And initially the baby has a weaker suckle and is working at producing your supply and establishing breastfeeding. So they have feed for longer times, and that engorgement, demand supply issues create more heaviness initially. But later, as the baby gets more effective in suckling and emptying, that softness, you don't feel like you're engorged or that full. So that's another thing that mothers think, as long as you recheck the urine output, poop, and the weight, it should be fine. Also, another thing that commonly mothers think about is leaking breasts. If I don't have leaky breasts, that means I'm not producing enough milk. Again, that's wrong, because Leaky breasts again happen. Yes, you do have a little milk maybe leaking out from the opposite breast when you're feeding on one side. But apart from that, leaky breast is not an indication of whether you have enough milk or not. These are some of the myth busters about supply of milk that a lot of mothers commonly come to us about. They say 3 months, my breasts don't feel as full, maybe I don't have enough milk. And another very, very common thing, every few weeks you'll see moms coming to us saying, maybe baby is feeding very often now, changed pattern, maybe I don't have enough milk. These could be correlating to cluster feeding or your growth spurts that your baby is having every few weeks, 7 to 10 days, 3 weeks, 6 weeks. Babies do feed in different patterns. They may feed a longer time, they may feed shorter time, but more frequently, maybe at your breast all night, things like this. Patterns are there in the, growth spurts when the baby is having. Remember that these are essential for the baby to grow rapidly and to boost your supply of milk also to support that baby's growth. Also, yes, it is distressing, but it lasts only for a few days and it should settle in a few days. It's not a permanent situation. So these are also indicators where mothers feel I don't have enough supply and they tend to supplement, but it's not really needed. If you just look at the urine output and the poop and the weight and you know that your baby is active, then you can correlate these things to why it is happening and maybe you can avoid uh, supplementing unnecessarily.
Yeah, just to add upon that, and the other myth with most of the mothers during their antenatal visit, they ask us is, I was not able to feed my first child, and it's the same thing happens where, during this pregnancy, and what I should start doing it from now so that I feed at least this child. So definitely, again, each pregnancy is different and each baby is different. You need to work out with the baby, and the most important thing is the first golden hour, what words we say. So most important to help in latching on for the babies. So mothers who haven't first breastfed the first child definitely shouldn't lose their hope. So definitely they need to try and do that in this pregnancy. And I think we have discussed most of the points which all the mothers which usually ask us. And it's almost 5 o'clock. So shall we just see what if there are any question and answers, and then if anything has to be added up, we'll just go on with that. Do we have any question and answers?
There are lots in the Q&A box, Dr.
Yeah,
Sridevi.
yes. Yeah. Uh, Hello, ma'am. I'm second time mom in my 28 weeks of pregnancy. I still breastfeed my firstborn who is 2-year-old once a day. I continue feeding her until delivery, or will that affect my colostrum production for my newborn? Dr. Saujanya, would you like to answer this?
I think you're the right person to answer this
Okay,
related
fine.
to pregnancy and
Yeah,
whether delivery it would
yeah,
affect the
yeah.
birthing or preterm delivery or whatever.
Yeah. Only thing is, see, initially it's very difficult to suddenly stop the breastfeed when your pregnancy is confirmed. So we usually tell to take a time period of 4 to 8 weeks so that it's comfortable for the mother and for the baby also to get adjusted to that weaning period. So 28 weeks, what happens is most of the times whenever the baby is sucking, the nipple stimulation, there's a hormone, what we call the oxytocin hormone, which is released, and that sometimes may cause uterine contraction. So if it's already 28 weeks, definitely we would tell you to wean off the baby. And now that the baby is 2-year-old and baby is on supplemental foods, on all the foods, so you should be trying to weaning off the baby now, because you have to try it now. Again, it becomes difficult for you at the time of delivery, because sometimes we see mothers feeding both the babies, the newborn and even the first child, this thing. But definitely during pregnancy at 28 weeks, we would recommend you to stop it in a phased manner. So next, I have a 22 days old baby and had a C-section. My baby doesn't breastfeed. No matter how much I try, she gets a lot fussy and pushes away, moving her hands. But as soon as I give her a bottle with formula, she feeds properly with no problem. That's what just now Dr. Saujanya has mentioned. Few of the babies, even if the mothers think that it's only for a single feed that they have given the bottle, but still the thing is they're used to ready feeds, and they do not work hard to on the breasts. So that's the problem where you need to avoid the bottle. Probably you need to work out for another 1 week or 10 days or how much ever, and then try to feed the baby. What do you say, Dr. Saujanya? Any other things which you would like to
Yeah.
add on?
Yeah, exactly what you said is right. But once this situation happens, it's actually like a difficult loop to get out. What happens is because the baby is used to bottle, refuses to suck at breast, and you cannot see the baby crying. You cannot leave the baby, and that's when you are again tempted. So it would be a tough phase. First, I would prefer the mother to get some help, medical help first, not try on their own, because it would become baby would be more fussy and it will cause more anxiety and stress for her, which is not necessary. So with right kind of help, we can tell the methods in a phased manner again, how to slowly avoid the bottle and what are the other options of giving expressed milk and how can we feed so that the baby slowly forgets the bottle and then try to put the baby back on latch on the breast. So definitely needs a physical medical help and then try it out, and it might take, as you said, a week to 10 days time to get, and sometimes even longer.
Yeah, how to manage both formula and breast milk? Sometimes we see the pediatricians recommending if the weight gain or the feed is not enough for that baby based on the assessment of their clinical situation, we do suggest sometimes a bit of formula along with the breast milk. So how to manage both formula and breast milk is what was the question, I believe.
So I think first of all, maybe I would like to rephrase the question first. We need to look into why the formula was prescribed. So that is very important. So unless medically indicated, I think none of the pediatrician or obstetrician or anybody wouldn't prescribe a formula. So manage the formula and breast milk. I believe if it is for a real medical indication, it would be temporary till the breast milk production is improved, which needs to be worked simultaneously. So the only way to give formula in that situations would be to use a cup or a spoon or a palade. So first is no bottle, no bottle, no bottle, even if the formula is given for a medical reason. And always, even if formula is advised under medical guidance, first of all, whenever the baby is hungry or it is a feed time, first directly breastfeed the baby, and at the end of the direct breastfeed, then you freshly prepare the formula if it is needed as per the indication by the doctor, how much ever ml is suggested, and then try to feed it through a cup or a spoon. And then as the indication is no longer there, I think you have to suddenly stop the formula and get onto the breastfeed. So that is the only way to manage formula and get back onto the breastfeeding.
And
And I
other thing
think,
is such
Doctor, I
yeah.
think despite having said that no formula, no giving the bottles and only give paladas and feeding cups, we do get a lot of mothers who say the baby is already used to bottles, and then what do we do? They get irritated. So that I think that time you should be able to follow something called a spaced bottle feeding, where when you're weaning off from the bottle, also you should mimic the breastfeed with the bottle. So do not put the bottle this way, but rather keep it parallel to the floor so that the pace of the bottle is lesser, the flow is lesser. Also choose a nipple which is slow flow nipple, that is, so even if the baby is bigger, because then the flow will not be so excessive where they will not get irritated at the breast when you're trying to wean off. So when you look, and always don't continuously ensure the baby finishes that bottle in 5 minutes. Always you should take paced feeds, like you feed a few minutes, then burp the baby, then again feed a few minutes, just like mimicking the breast at baby at the breast. Only then can you slowly wean off the bottle and really introduce the cup and the spoons, and continue with maybe direct breastfeeds.
Yeah, other thing about the formula and the breast milk is the how to manage. And few of the mothers we see that they give one feed entirely a formula and one feed entirely a breast milk. So definitely, as Dr. Saujanya has put in, every feed should be with both the breast. Initially start with the breast milk and then start with the formula, whatever the extra additional supplement is really required. And when do we know that the breast is empty and there are any signs? I think we have discussed that in the discussion, and I hope that clears the query. Is it true that when the baby is full, his or her palms are open? When their tummy is not full, their palms are closed? Definitely, I haven't heard about it, but I don't know if any of the panelists have any things to say on that.
No, I
Lata,
think I think it is just I don't know, misconception or a misnomer. There is nothing like that. Palms being closed of or being open, it is a developmental reaction to the surroundings or whatever. So it is not related to breastfeeding or at least especially the fullness of stomach. Definitely not.
my baby is 6 weeks. Anytime he has not satisfied, so I started formula feed. Now my breast supply decrease as after pump, I get 30 ml at a time. Can I increase my supply now?
I think you can
Lata.
increase, you can definitely increase the supply, but every time it will take some time for you to wean off that and start. So first you work on building your supply. So every time you supplement feed, I think you should work on pumping, because when you're substituting the baby, you have to work on, substituting the baby stimulation to your breast. So pump at that time when the baby is getting an additional feed. Slowly, as your supply is increasing, you can wean off one feed from the formula, and then you will be able to balance. But it requires patience, it requires belief that you can do it, and it will take some time.
As a working mom, I'm really concerned about pumping the breast milk. How soon can I start pumping and give bottle feeds? So Lata, would you like to? Yeah, Saujanya or Lata, one of you can.
So I think I actually didn't understand the concern properly. How soon can I start pumping? So whenever
Probably.
so whenever a mother decides to resume back to the work, so this would be an informed decision. So first and foremost thing is the preparation should start 2 weeks before, at least 2 to 3 weeks before joining to the work. That is very important. Otherwise, what happens is the baby is used to the breastfeeding, direct breastfeeding, and suddenly baby doesn't find the mother and cannot find the breast to suck it. So it will cause a lot of separation anxiety for the baby, and the mother also after going to the work will have acute issues like engorgement, fullness, and leaking and pain and so on. All this would start. So I think if the person who has asked a question, if they are not yet joined work, I think you start preparation now. You make a plan, goal for yourself, discuss with your family members and get their support, and pull them in to this plan, so how to execute it. And you should first take help from a lactational counselor or any other person available near on usage of breast pumps. So you need to get adequately trained and educated about how to use a breast pump, how to sterilize a breast pump and sanitize it, and how to get the containers prepared for storing of breast milk. So this process at least takes a week to 10 days time. And it is preferable if they can afford and set up a mini milk bank like situation at home, like where they have a separate refrigerator or a freezer facility if they have to store the milk. And if they cannot express fresh milk and send it back home, in that case she can express before leaving for work and store it in the refrigerator and then get back to the work. So most importantly, it's a more of a mental preparation, and take time for yourself to get trained with the usage of breast pumps, and start this 2 to 3 weeks before, so that the baby gets used to it. And the mode of giving express breast milk, if you are trained again with your lactational consultant or pediatrician on how to give spoon feed or day feeding, or if it is a bottle, then how to space the bottle, as Dr. Lata was talking. So these things need to be discussed. And most importantly, what is important is when you go to the work, you need to carry your own breast pump, and discuss with your team manager that you need to take breaks every 3 hours for at least 15 to 20 minutes. You need to plan your breaks in between your work well, and try to express them. And nowadays we have so many apps like Swiggy, Genie and all. If you can send the milk then and there, fresh milk, that is fine. Otherwise you can discard that milk. Don't worry about the supply. The more you express, the more milk you are going to produce. And most importantly, stay hydrated, as Dr. Lata Shashi was mentioning about. So when you're expressing so much in during the workplace, keep yourself hydrated. The moment you come back home, try to nurse directly. Once you are home, try to nurse directly as much as possible. Try sleeping with the baby in the night. Give more of night feeds. That helps to release more of prolactin hormone and more of breast milk production, so that you will not have the worry that because you're not directly feeding in the daytime, your milk supply shouldn't come down. So that's why night feeds help. And whenever you are on a weekend or a day off, definitely you can completely go back to the direct breastfeeding. So I think these are small simple tips that you can actually use while you are actually a working mom and still you are motivated. But I think we should congratulate such mothers who are still determined to continue breastfeeding despite work, and they are trying to balance the work and personal commitments. So it's extremely commendable. Just get help from your family members, spouse, as well as the medical help needed.
Yeah.
Just
Other thing is,
adding, if
Saujanya.
I may, Dr. Sridevi,
Yes.
if as early as possible the mother asks. So I just want to say, sometimes if your baby and mother are together, do not try to pump before 6 weeks too much, because that can lead to oversupply. And then again, like Dr. Saujanya said, some of the breast refusals can also come because of that fast letdown and oversupply. So just that's something to keep in mind. And when you prepare your family for expressed milk that you pump, remember to label the milk, the morning milk and the night milk, so that the morning milk is given at the morning time and night milk is given at the night time, because each of those has hormones to promote the baby's biorhythm. Like nighttime milk, evening time milk will have more melatonin, which promotes sleep, and morning time milk, which has more cortisol, which promotes more activity for the baby. So I think when Dr. Sardinia mentioned about creating a separate freezer for it, if you can label according to the date and time, old milk first and then the newer milk. That way, if you can, inform your family, that would be best for your baby's development and biorhythm as well.
I
That's
think
it,
one
Dr.
last
Sardinia.
thing, sorry, I'm taking time. I just want to add this. If they have doubts of how to store the milk,
Yeah.
so if it is in the room temperature, so within 4 hours, you need to use it. Otherwise, discard the milk. But if you are using a refrigerator at 4 degrees centigrade, if you are using it maybe up to 4 days, you can actually store. But as Dr. Lata has mentioned, again, the freshest milk has to get the preference accordingly. And if you chose to freeze the milk for some reason, that is below -18, where the milk becomes like frozen, so that can be actually used for 6 months, but make sure that it is properly frozen and the temperature is maintained. And in any case, if you are using such a frozen milk for the baby, for some reason mother is outstation, so in such situations you should not microwave or heat the milk. That you have to remember, very essential. Only thing you can do is you can transfer, if you have time, you can transfer the frozen milk into the normal refrigerator compartment that is at 4 degrees, and within 12 hours it will become a liquid from the frozen thing, and then you can use it in one day. But if you need it immediately, then probably whatever the container or the bag in which the milk is frozen, you have to run it through the warm water, warm or mild hot water, so it would thaw itself. And once it is thawed, within 1 to 2 hours, the quantity of the milk you need to use, otherwise discard. But anytime you smell some sourness in the milk, anytime you find there is some unpleasant odor or something, you need to discard.
Yeah. Other thing, most of the mothers, as the thing is, Saujanya, with the milk which has been stored in the side of the compartment. So when before the feed, how long before should they keep the milk bottle on the room temperature, or should they, as you said, should they run it under the warm water, or should they boil the water and then keep that bottle in that and make it as lukewarm milk? What do you suggest for those
See, I
mothers?
think keeping it outside for a longer time, again, there is a chance of contamination. So, if they can put that in a warm water bowl itself, because if the side freezer, it will not be frozen, it will be liquid, but it will be cold at 4
Mm.
or maybe 8 degree,
Yeah.
depending on your refrigerator. So, you can
Mm.
place that bottle in a warm water. Within 10 minutes, I think it will become warm, or it will come to room temperature, and that should be fine.
Yeah. I'm a 37 weeks pregnant now. Milk-like liquid has been leaking from areola region of one of the nipples and skin has become sensitive. Will this be an issue for breastfeeding? Definitely no. And most of the pregnant women, what they see is whenever they see this kind of liquid, they try to express and see whether they have started with the milk, and they worry is whether they're going to have preterm delivery or whether they're going to start with the labor pains. So one thing they need to understand is pregnancy, the breast size increases, and throughout the pregnancy, there is some amount of breast liquid which will be there. If you start expressing it at any period of gestation, you find little bit of leak which will be there through the areola. So don't try to express and then see it, and definitely it will not cause an issue for the breastfeeding after the delivery. How many months post delivery should a mother continue to breastfeed the baby? What is the frequency of breastfeeding initially? Lata, would you like to take it?
Well, it's recommended by WHO 6 months exclusive breastfeeding. So for 6 months, nothing else, no water, no other feed. And once 6 months is completed, you want to obviously start complementary feeding. And you can continue up to 2 years or even more. That's a personal choice that you make. Baby may not be dependent on complete calories on your breast milk, but you will be giving a whole lot of immunity boosters and comfort and emotional needs to your baby through that. So it's a choice you will have to, informed choice you will have to make. That's all, no, Dr. Sridevi?
I think the
Yeah, yeah, this is
frequency
frequency.
with
Frequency. Yeah, frequency initially, like we all shared, the baby's stomach size is small. Breast milk is easily digestible. So there may be a lot more frequent feeding, minimum 8 to 12, 15 feeds also based on the demand of the baby. But as the baby's suckle gets stronger and baby starts effectively transferring milk, if you have 6 feeds, I think in 24 hours, which we look at a cutoff, I think that should be okay. Over and beyond that is purely dependent on the baby, as long as your baby is gaining good weight and having a good urine output and reaching milestones adequately.
Yeah. One more question. I was told not to breastfeed when I'm down with cold. Is this true? I think Dr. Saujanya has answered that question. Definitely no. You need to protect the baby from the cold. Probably you need to wear a mask and make sure that the contact with the baby is not there. The droplets are not in direct contact with the baby. Next thing, can I see the recording as I missed the most of the part? We'll get back to you, Monica. And there is a saying that if we do not introduce bottle in initial days, then babies refuse bottle feed. Is it true? The thing is, why do you want to introduce bottle initial days or the later days? Dr. Saujanya, would you like to go with that?
No, I think, yeah, as you said, first of all, we need to look into why we want to actually introduce the bottle. So there is no need as such if a mother is able to exclusively breastfeed for the first 6 months and she's physically available, there is no need. And that's the point. Like if sometimes mothers feel that when they go out or they're in the public, they feel little bit shy, or they feel that you cannot breastfeed. And I think I take this opportunity now, the taboo of breastfeeding in public as being a embarrassment should be removed, and we should work towards normalizing the breastfeeding in public. So I think first of all we need to look into why we want to actually introduce. But see, introducing bottle anytime is actually easy, but later getting it out from the breastfeeding is what is the toughest part. So we need to look into the reasons.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. As a community, the shared responsibility which we need to share, which is the motto of this breastfeeding week. What should a pregnant woman eat to produce milk? I think Dr. Lata has extensively answered in her talk in the discussion about what all foods need to be taken, and there is no extra food or anything to produce the milk. Do whatever I eat affect my baby's health if I am breastfed? Fed. Dr. Lata Shashi, would you like to take this?
Whatever you eat affect your baby's health. As I earlier said, it is if you are flatulent or allergic to any food, you will be uncomfortable, and so you will not be able to breastfeed your baby. But it does not affect the baby's health. The breast milk will not get affected, right? So be comfortable in the foods that you eat so that you are able to breastfeed your baby well. See that you're having all the essential nutrients that we talk of. So you should have good carbohydrates, proteins, fats. So all the food groups, you just take care that you're eating all the food groups so that you're getting it into well absorbed. Or I always tell everyone, eating everything is not enough. Is it well digested, absorbed so that it reaches your blood and hence comes to form your milk? So please concentrate on the right combination of eating, eat on time, eat the right meal for small meal so that it's well digested and absorbed with adequate hydration so that the baby suckles well and has good milk. I also would like to add, Dr. Devi, that most of the queries I have already answered. So those of others, anyone. One query that I would like to reiterate here is, will coffee dry my breast milk, was one query. I just like to tell the listeners that coffee or any caffeine product will dehydrate you. And because of the dehydration, yes, it will reduce your breast milk. So in that respect, it will. So those of you who really need that one small cup of coffee need to take care that they're taking additional at least 2 glasses of water or fluid before they drink that coffee so that they're not dehydrating themselves. But as much as possible, avoid caffeinated drinks and drink all other clear fluids to get your breast milk well.
Yeah. So is it absolutely fine, if possible, to never introduce bottle feed, breastfeed for 2 years along with food and then milk in cup or spoon, etc., but not bottle? I know this is ideal situation, but want to understand as a first time mom. Definitely that will be the best ideal situation. for those who have just any
I
other
think it is
questions?
definitely possible, and I think as our previous panelists have been discussing this for the last 1 hour, it is all here. So this is a game in the head. So if you have the will and the motivation, and which of course needs support from the moment you plan pregnancy or from the moment you confirmed with pregnancy, if you have that motivation and if you are guided properly, you seek help, your family members are there to hold hand with you, definitely this journey would have a lot of ups and downs. It's not going to be a smooth sailing, as they say, but definitely it's all worth it. The effort is all worth it, and in the end you yourself would feel it. But definitely it requires multiple factors that need to be supported for the mother, and it is definitely possible. And I think I take this opportunity to give my own example. My son, who's now 8 years old, he never actually had tasted bottle. I mean, he never had taken milk from a bottle, so he doesn't know how it feels like. So it is definitely possible. Not just that I'm a pediatrician or neonatologist, but every mother can do it. So just believe that you can do it, and you would be able to do with support and help.
Are there any proper measures or guidance on the transition from bottle feed to breastfeed? Definitely, we can help out, and I think the reach out to the lactational counselor in this regard will definitely help you out. And as Dr. Saujanya said, you need to seek help in the initial part. Don't try it yourself. Again, the baby may become cranky, and just need to work out on that. Can we give 10 ml breast milk and 10 ml formula at one feed? Saujanya, would you like to?
Yeah, I think this was answered before.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can give if it is indicated, though, just that you don't mix them together. But after breast milk, if you have to give formula, you can give, but always look into the reason why you are actually giving it. Is it justified, advised medically, and is your baby really needing that? So that's what matters. But you can give it unless you mix both the milks together.
And there is a question about the preterm baby. I have been using a bottle feed for the preterm considering his low weight. And now that the weight is around 2 kgs, is the right time to switch to breastfeed, or should I wait until the baby is 3 kgs? What is the safe weight?
See, 2
I don't
kg, I
think so.
think I've mentioned 2
Yeah,
kg is
you
a
already
weight where
mentioned
you
in.
can start breastfeeding. But now, given the situation that baby is already used to bottle and probably was never latched, normally what we do is when the baby is preterm and small, we give what is called non-nutritive sucking so that the baby gets used to the process of sucking and all that. I'm not sure if in this situation the baby was offered that. So you definitely need to seek help first, meet your lactational counselor, and go about the plan how to switch the baby from bottle to breast.
Yeah. I've recently gone through C-section delivery. Post that, I started feeling preeclampsia symptoms, and top I had a flat nipple. After a lot of struggle, my baby started sucking only one side of the breast. My other side breast is growing bigger than I expected. I request you to please suggest me any tip to feed my baby from other breast. Dr. Lata, would you like to help out?
Yeah, maybe for a long time your baby has not taken the other side, and therefore, the baby is not used to, or the supply also may have reduced a little on the other side. So I think if you take the measures that we mentioned about flat nipples, like you using different holes, like the C-shaped hole, to facilitate that latch, and also if you can use the syringe technique to sort of suction out the nipple, and then try to put the baby to the breast, it may help. But in the meantime, you will have to improve the supply naturally. And therefore, I think pumping on that side every time you are meant to feed on that side often, maybe if you do that, sometimes you can also do something called as power pumping. Like in 1 hour, you can do 10 minutes pumping, give some rest, again 10 minutes pumping. So as you do it every day at the same time, repeatedly over a period of a week or so, your supply generally improves. Maybe after trying these aspects, you can try to bring the baby to the other side and see if the baby is able to. It will start small, maybe he'll suckle for a few minutes first, and as it is improving, he may gradually go on to be suckling longer. But believe in that and have patience in what you're doing.
Yeah, my milk stop after 5 minutes and baby get angry. He never satisfied, and after 30 minutes also again he sleeps for 20 minutes and again cries. I think it's better you come along with the baby for one of the lactational counselors, and then make sure that you're putting the baby in the proper position and then work out with that. Definitely we would suggest you and we would help you with that aspect. Dr. Lata, what do you say?
Yes, Dr. Sridevi, you said right. I think maybe you should get help, but you have to also see the underlying reasons, as in, is the baby gaining weight first? Some babies suckle for 5 minutes at 3 months and they gain adequate weight. And remember, breastfeeding is not only about milk, it's about a whole lot of different things. It's about comfort, it's about insecurity, it's about giving, wanting to fall asleep at the breast, it's about warmth, it's about emotional needs, it's about so many other things. So if your baby is gaining weight adequately and is behaving this way, then it could be a whole lot of reasons why the baby wants to be at your breast and not purely nutrition. But if it's the nutritional aspect of not gaining adequate weight along with being dehydrated or less urine outputs, then you definitely need to come in and check why maybe the baby is not having adequate latch or not suckling adequately. So maybe that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. I think one or two questions are there for Dr. Lata Shashi, which has been already answered in the discussion about the weight gain of 10 kgs during the pregnancies and all. I think we have covered that in the discussion. The one thing is, what should I do if there is no breast milk, even after trying so many things? So one thing I would like to add upon over here is the psychological factor and the stress that each woman takes that I am not able to produce the breast milk. Definitely that will act on the psychological aspects. And the other thing what we tell is, when you're feeding the baby, make sure you have a eye to eye contact with the baby, because sometimes we see the mothers talking onto the phone and then holding the baby for the breastfeed and all those things. So definitely the psychological factor will play an important role. And what should I do if there is no breast milk production, even after trying so many things? Probably you need to reach out to the lactation counselor, and they'll try to help you out, and whatever the underlying cause why this is not happening can be sorted out. And the other thing is, don't get psychologically upset that you're not able to breastfeed the baby. There are certain situations and there are certain mothers, in spite of all the things, they definitely require some amount of formula and they need to substitute that. What do you say, Dr. Saujanya? Any other
Yeah, I think
comments
in
on
that
that?
situation, if it is really that every effort had been made, every a stone was unturned, and still if there was a situation due to some medical conditions or whatever, because most of the things are correctable, as Dr. Lata was talking about, physical attachment, psychological aspects, and the positioning, support, these are all modifiable factors, in which case timely help definitely changes the game. But there would be some situations which we need to accept. We cannot ignore them, that there will be some real medical conditions in which maybe even after doing everything, it might not be possible. In that situation, if nowadays we are in a situation where we have a lot of human milk banks. So being a pediatrician, I think I'm more turned towards giving human milk to human babies. So if they can reach out to them, that's where the milk banks come in handy. So just not for the preterm babies, so we should not restrict our human milk banking only for smaller babies, preterm babies, but also real genuine bigger babies who really need and deserve human milk. I think they should get that benefit. So I think this is where the awareness about the human milk banking, the facilities offered, is very important, and that is one option I think I would still prefer before going to the formula.
Hi, I am Priyanka. I am a mother of 5 months old baby boy and I am a working woman. After giving birth to your little one, you are not yet done. You still have another thing to achieve: breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is a natural process every mammal does. And even I have faced some. I have inverted nipples, which makes it difficult baby to latch on. But I got professional help. I never pumped to check my supply, or I never thought of a formula. All I have done is believing in myself. Every problem has a solution, we need to find it. And breastfeeding is not only a mother's responsibility, it's also responsibility of everyone around the mother.
Hi, I'm Sunita. I want to share my lactation experience with you all. I had an emergency C-section as my baby was having severe FGR. So at 34 weeks, baby was very small. She shifted to NICU. She was there for longer period. So at that time, my bigger challenge was how to feed my little one. So I was in that worried. I knew the wonderful team of lactation and the NICU team will take care of it. As I was expecting, the team helped me a lot to understand the breastfeeding positions and how to feed my baby. So with the constant encouragement, I've started exclusive breastfeed. After starting breastfeed, I observed a good weight gain in her. So being a dietitian expert, I am lucky enough to know how to improve my breastfeed quality. Hence, I strongly encourage breastfeeding as it's a mother's gift to herself and for her baby. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Neeti and I am a mother of two kids. So, talking about my breastfeeding journey, with my first one, L1, it was smooth. Partially because he was in an NICU for the first few days, and I got a lot of support from the lactational consultant, the pediatrician, etc. over there. So that was fine. So by the time my second one was born, I thought that, it's going to be very simple, and I am a pro. I already have experience of breastfeeding my elder one for about 1.5 years. So I thought it's going to be a cakewalk for me, but I was taken by surprise. I was completely wrong. My younger one, he was not able to latch well. So it was very painful, and I could not even see him. So I spoke to his doctor, and she then checked on the latch and told me how to latch properly. She supported quite a lot. Then we were able to successfully get him latch properly. After that, it had been pretty smooth, and I am very happy that I did not give up at that point of time, because I was little tempted to start him on formula. Seeing him crying so much, I am very grateful that I persisted along with help from the doctor. It helped a lot, and I am happy. The most important things are to have patience and keep on persisting. It will be very rewarding if you persist. Thank you.
I think that was a very nice short video, Dr. Lata. And I think we have answered most of the questions in the Q&A things, and we have covered most of the things. And in case any of the queries or anything, definitely you all can reach out to any one of us. And we have the lactation helpline also. So anytime you have any of these queries, you can reach out to any one of us. And I thank each and every one of you for joining and participating in this weekend session. And I thank Dr. Saujanya, Dr. Lata Shashi, Dr. Lata Balsundaram, and the IT team who have been helping us to make this webinar a success. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.